What's up, guys? It is Rick again. We are talking about how not to fall for the realtor trap, and I am somewhat of an expert of this today. So I want to talk about realtors, our relationship with wholesalers, and if you're struggling with the decision if you want to become licensed as a realtor to do your wholesaling business, and it pains me to even say something like that, let's talk about it. So I'm not oblivious. I've had to go through this exact thought process. I can't tell you how many times since 2003 right up to today. And I've heard every argument. I've read every law. I own a brokerage, for full disclosure. And I'm going to tell you the ins and outs, the advantages, the disadvantages. And at the end of the day, you guys make the decision. I'm not here to influence you. I'm just here to educate you, because a lot of you have some really bad information, and I'm going to expose the light on how this works. So this seems to be like a very heated topic, and I'm going to give you my opinion towards the end, and you make a decision on what you want to do. I think the more information you have, the better. I have struggled with this my entire career, but honestly, I believe I do have the answer because I have a 20-year plus journey in this. So, but you do what's best for you. And as long as you have information, you're armed with it. How not to fall in the realtor trap. And so many of you guys have this argument like, should I get licensed to be a wholesaler? So as far as the wholesaling industry, there is no licensing. There is no requirement by any state or federal law. And you do not have to be licensed to be a wholesaler. I'm living proof. I'm on my 21st year. I've never, ever got any type of real estate license that has to do with wholesaling, period. So a lot of people get confused. They're like, okay, well, what are they talking about all this licensing? Well, let's break this down real quick. You have to understand that licensing is regulated usually at the state level. And there's always this argument between federal and state. And we're going to go into this because most of these so-called laws, statutes that are being passed in these various states, they're ridiculous because the federal law says otherwise. You, as a tax-paying citizen in the United States, you're allowed to enter into legal, authoritative, binding contracts. They can't take that away from you. You can write it whatever statute you want. How are you ever going to enforce it? And we're going to kind of walk through that, and that's the challenge right now. So if you guys haven't heard, Kentucky just passed one of the dumbest statutes I've ever seen. And it basically prohibits you marketing your equitable interest. There's no definition of what they think equitable interest. There's no definition of what marketing is. I think they just write these laws to scare the heck out of you guys. And more importantly, they give fuel to other gurus, coaches, whatever you want to be, and then they're going to tell you how they're going to protect you. And we are going to address all that. It just drives me. How do you define what's an equitable interest? Unless you define it, you give me 5 lawyers, I'll give you 5 different definitions. It's so stupid. So let's jump into it. So we have this it always seems like the two families that feud. You guys educated me on this last time. And I'm Hatfield McCoys. We're going to call them realtors and wholesalers. I've been around. It's always been contentious. I'm not dumb. I know 95% of all real estate transactions involve a real estate agent. You can't deny that fact. It makes sense if you want to work with realtors. I've never denied that fact. Here's where we have a problem, okay? Is you guys fall in what we call the multi-purpose trap. And what this means is, you know what? I was thinking about it. I saw somebody speaking on the internet, like the best way to protect yourself is to become licensed. And I can do my wholesale business and I can list properties. Well, dude, in theory, it's the sexiest thing you'll ever hear. The reality of it, I've been through this 1,000 times. It is a trap. You are going to get stuck. So let me ask you this. If you wanted to be a stockbroker, why would you go get your insurance license? Because that's what you're doing if you go get your real estate license. By the way, your real estate license has nothing to do with it. It won't teach you one iota about wholesaling. It's actually extremely anti-wholesaling. And the whole goal, I think, of most of these laws and people doing it is so you'll get your real estate license, so you'll see the light and you'll stop wholesaling. Well, I'm never going to stop. I don't think you guys are going to stop. And for this reason, if you enter into what I call, it's not even a matrix, guys. It's out there for the public to know. You decide to take all that real estate licensing, the exams, pay all the fees. Now you got to do 2 jobs. And I'm telling you, why would you go get your real estate license if you don't want to be a realtor? I just like look at the common sense of this. You want to be a wholesaler. The realtor has nothing to do with wholesaling. It's zero. Here's the latest argument I heard. Well, it's going to give you credibility. No, it's not. The only way you get credibility as a realtor is thousands and thousands of hours of dealing with people, just like wholesaling. But they're dealing with the retail customers with the nice, pretty houses that need to be talked through the entire transaction. We're trying to sell distressed properties for a fair price on a quick, fast, convenient closing. They are two different worlds. So you go into the realtor world, now you're stuck and you have all sorts of problems. So I know you guys have been introduced this thousands and thousands of times over. The problem is most of you guys, it's mostly like fear mongering. So before you do anything, so if you're looking to become a realtor right now, I want you to answer some honest questions here. Let's go through it. Why are you becoming a realtor? Do you want to sell nice, pretty houses for full price, do tons of showings and inspections? And if you want to do that, that's fine. I'm perfectly fine with it. But if you're going to do it, you got to give it your all. So if you think you can split your worlds between wholesaling and realtors, I've yet to see anybody do it correctly. So I know a lot of people have the license to do the wholesaling, but the reality is we know if you focus on one thing and you go all in, you usually have the best shot at it. So why are you going to let getting licensed as a realtor take away? You already know it's a lower paying job unless you deal with the really high end properties and you're willing to go like all in, wear the suit, go to New York City, LA, Miami, stuff like that. That's where the big money is, and there is a ton of competition in it. I don't like that. It doesn't mean if you want to do that, it's fine. You will never see a realtor become like a wholesaler. They'll do a few deals here and there, but like very, very uncommon. So my question to you is, why would you want to become a realtor? What's the attractive part to you? Now, here's the problem. Most of you are thinking about becoming a realtor because somebody suggested it to you, some influencer, someone that does really well, and they go, hey, I need to do it. Here's the disclosure part you don't understand. They went through 5, 10, 20 years through the business. They never ever got a license for the most part. Or they just got their license out of convenience. And I'm here to tell you, I find the absolute best wholesalers, hands down, are the ones that don't have a real estate license. Prove me wrong. I'm here to tell you, sometimes people start as a real estate agent because they were young and they didn't know what to do and they swap over. And I guess if you keep it for that purpose, I'm fine with it, as long as you're fine with the expenses. But the reality is, if you're getting started and you think you have to get a license to get to start, I think you're dead wrong. So in 2003, they tried to scare the crap out of me. Here's the problem. Now you have influencers said, listen, you have to have a license or you're going to jail. By the way, no one's ever gone to jail for wholesaling. It doesn't exist. Show me the case number, give me a name, I'll look it up, and I will do a public apology. Most people go to jail because they break the law. Forgery, fraud, violations of RICO acts, and you should go to jail for that. But there's this argument out there, if I don't become a licensed real estate agent, I'm going to jail. Number one, you need to understand the law. And number two, you need to know how the law applies. And you need to know the difference between federal and state law. And if you want a real education, sit down with an attorney and let them explain it to you. When you write a law and you don't define what the criteria is to violate it, how are you ever going to hold someone accountable for the law? And most of these ridiculous statutes that are passed against marketing properties you don't own are all going under the umbrella. If you don't have a real estate license, we're going to come after you. So you got to understand, large companies, they assign thousands and thousands of contracts between real estate companies and everything else, and nobody ever chases them down. So how can they chase you down and ignore these companies? Assignments have to always be in place because a good business transfers things. Is completely normal, and you have to understand that. So ask yourself, why are you becoming a realtor? If someone told you have to become a realtor and they use the word jail in anything, tell them to give you a list of people that have gone to jail for wholesaling. You won't get the list because it doesn't exist. It's a fear thing. And you guys also have to understand this. If a person's telling you to get your license because it's going to make your life easier, you're missing the other side of the argument. Becoming a licensed realtor is an obligation, is somewhat of a privilege, and you are held to a much higher standard. I'm going to go through it because you don't know all the stuff that's going to be problematic if you primarily want to wholesale. Even if you want to wholesale 90% of the time and do real estate brokering 10% of the time, it's going to kill your wholesaling business because of the disclosures. And you have this problem is like, which are you? Are you the investor today or are you the real estate agent? And my favorite is just sign all these disclosures. We'll cover it. You're going to confuse your customers. Most of my customers, they've had it with real estate agents by the time they get to me. So if I told them I'm a licensed real estate agent, I'm probably going to miss out on most of the deals. So let me run through this. The rules for realtors is absolutely insane. So let's go through this. But Rick, I get commissions. Listen, I don't care how we collect money. You can call it commissions, you can call it assignment fee. I'm all about profit in real estate. Commissions is the one thing that's like red flag that unless you carry this coveted real estate license, you are not entitled to get it. Guys, if that scares you, get out of wholesaling, because commissions are tiny, tiny little things. Unless you can stack up hundreds, if not thousands of them, it's hard to make money unless you're doing $5 to $10 million properties. Do the math on this. It's not hard to figure out. If you get an average of 2 to 3% on a deal, just do the math equation. And then compare that to what a wholesaler that's successful can make. It's like an eighth of the work, in my opinion. But a lot of you get really excited commission. So what I want to do is let's walk through the cost of being a realtor, right? So, hey, Rick, I'm going to get commissions. Let's walk through the cost of it. So I'm going to take out my little board here. And guys, I know there's realtors on here looking at it. Chime in and tell me what fees I'm missing, because I have to pay these fees on a monthly basis and I hate it. So I own the brokerage, I don't run it. Okay. They sell my properties. They do a lot of high-end beachfront and waterfront properties, and it makes good money, but there's an entire staff to pay and it's expensive. And so just so you know, the average brokerage makes at best 10 to 12% when all the fees are said and done. So when you guys get all excited and you see, I don't know, $5 million in commissions, it's not a lot of money in the end for the owner when it's all said and done. Wholesaling is the complete opposite. So let me put up the board here and I'm going to run through it. And I made a list on it. So now here's what I did. I did an average across the board. It might be a little bit higher, might be a little bit lower in your state. But if you're right now considering getting your real estate license, someone told me I have to get a license to wholesale or I'm going to jail. You're not going to jail. Why would you take advice from someone that's going to lie to you up front? It's clickbait, guys. I'm telling you, I've been doing this 20 plus years. I have never, ever even had a hint. You don't go to jail for following the law correctly. Now, there's nicky-nacky stuff, but let's go from there. So to get your license from the state, on average, okay, do not it's between $300 and $700. I just call it $500 right off the bat, okay? Now, you have to understand, on average, it takes about 3 months to study. You have to go to classes. I know they have a lot of online classes. We have 4 real estate schools where I'm at. It's so lucrative, guys. NAR loves it. If it was up to NAR, everyone would get their license. And why do you think NAR supports all wholesalers getting a real estate license? It's purely about money. That's all this is about. NAR kind of controls the world. And if you really want to dig into it, Google NAR and the Department of Justice. And they're being sued for an antitrust lawsuit because a few years back, actually it's a while back, someone tried to do flat listing fees. Well, they were part of NAR. They did it. NAR suppressed the listings and artificially pushed them down. We all know how censorship works. So they got sued. Now the Department of Justice is going after them. They just had an appeal hearing last week and NAR lost. So they're moving forward with the lawsuit. NAR thinks they're so big they can beat up anybody. And I'm praying to God they get broken up. I think it's ridiculous. It's the buyers and sellers commission. It's all supposed to be negotiable, but it's all flat fee. And this is why some of the real estate's so high. But anyways, $500 on a license. I'm looking at your guys' comments. So let's just keep adding up the fees here. I'm going to do questions at the end of this, I promise. The next one was 3 months of your time, man. And by the way, every time you fail the exam, you got to pay another $50, $100 to retake it. Now, that's actually the easy part. The MLS fees. So where I'm at, I have to do this, ready this, almost per county. My average one is around $2,000. I have 5 counties I have to do. I pay 10 grand. I have a brokerage. I have agents, but I'm not saying you have to do it. But sometimes just because you do this county, you got to pay another fee to do this county. You think NAR would be all interchangeable. It's not. There is no reciprocity for the most part. There are in some, but like I'm in Florida. If I go down to Miami, I have to pay for their database. Palm Beach, I got to pay for their database. And then in my local market, I got to pay for it, and the one north of me. It's ridiculous, guys. That is actually highway robbery. So remember, we're wholesalers. We have to pay all these fees. And let's think about what's next. Then you're going to have monthly fees. Most of your brokers are going to charge you what they call desk fees, you name it. On average, they're looking for an extra $100 for you. That's $1,200 a year. Don't get me started on your websites and all that stuff. That's just, you guys already know those fees are coming out there. There's nothing to do. Then you have continuing education fees. I don't know. It's going to probably average about $300 a year with our agents, and then an enormous amount of time. You have to sit in these classes. By the way, they're never going to teach you how to market. They're not going to teach you how to make money. They're just going to teach you how to be compliant. You be a good little soldier and you do this. The real estate license is all about making you to conform so you do not break the rules. Now, let's move on to the next one. Here's my favorite. Don't get me into like super boxes, because if you're going to deal with like high-level houses, you've got to get access. So you have to pay a monthly fee, which comes to about $300 a year. If you don't have it, you're going to be locked out of properties. There's no other way. And then each of the boxes, I want to say it is like 150 to 200 each. Now, you wholesalers like me, like we pay $20 for a lockbox and we're done. I'll give it away. I don't give a crap. So, and then here's my favorite part. You ready for this one? You got to carry E&O insurance. It's gone through the roof lately. So anywhere from 75 to 125, depending on what type of coverage. And that covers if you say something stupid out of your mouth and you get your broker sued. And so that, let's see what that rings up to. By the way, no one will tell you about these fees till after you get your license, because they want to suck you in. So let's just say that's another $1,200 for a year. And then guys, keep in mind, you're going to have to share a percentage of your commissions with who? Your broker. So it can be anywhere from, some of them are zero, like there's some good ones out there. There's a catch on the zero ones. I'm going to go over that one, up to 20%. And then that really brings up to the question is, so let's add this up real quick. 2,000, 2,500, 35, 3,700, 4,000, add another 500 for a super box. If you just do one, that's 4,500, 55, 5,700. So we're just under 6K, guys. Remember, if you're just going to do this to stay legal, you're paying someone to do all this stuff. So the amount of hours you have to do with continuing education. And then let me ask you this. What are we going to do about assignment fees when you get them? Now you have to disclose this to your broker. And guess what your broker is going to do? There's no way a broker is going to let you come in, park your real estate license, and pay them zero. So you're going to have to pay probably 10 to 20% fee. So if you do a $10,000 assignment, you might have to give up $2,000. Like I'm not okay with that. That's absolutely crazy. And guys, here's the biggest thing you have to understand. This is the killer right here. You ready? Disclosure. You have to disclose to every human being that you're a licensed real estate agent. Not only you have to disclose it, you have to scream it from the rooftops. You have to put it on your business cards. You have to put it on every marketing piece. You have to put it on your postcards. If you call people, you have to tell them you're a licensed realtor. You're going to, like, honestly, a big portion of my clients, they don't want to deal with realtors because they've had a problem in the past. That's not a reflection of the realtor. It's just the truth. So if we know that, the disclosure piece alone will hurt you as a wholesaler. And I don't care what you say. I've done this before. I've hired acquisitions people that are licensed real estate agents. They can answer the phone, but if you're a single operator like I was the first 7 years, I'm here to tell you the disclosure will lose a ton of deals for you because you scare people off. Because they think you want to list your property, they think they're going to go through all the games, and they get tired of it. Now, remember guys, I am talking about, let me take this off the screen here. I'm talking about trying to be a wholesaler that someone's told you have to protect yourself because you're going to go to jail if you don't get your real estate license. A real estate license, for full disclosure, is made for people who want to sell real estate and do it the old traditional way. So it will be of zero benefit for you. So let's move to the next one. Here's one of my favorites. Well, I'm going to get protections if I do this. Well, I've already told you your assignment fees. Not only do you have to probably pay a fee to your broker because that's the right thing to do, and brokers don't even understand, like most of them, how assignment fees work is, guess what? When you're a licensed real estate agent and you do private assignments, if there's ever a dispute, you are now going to be handled by the board of realtors. And they are a private committee that's going to make a decision if you are acting ethically, responsibly, and as a good custodial of a licensed real estate agent. And here's the counter argument you'll get from everyone. Well, they signed the disclosures. Most people don't read the disclosure, they know it, and they're going to run you under the bus. So the reality is, which one are you? Are you a realtor or are you a wholesaler? And most homeowners are going to mix that up whenever there's a dispute, and you are going to fall under the licensing. And when you sit in front of the board, they're going to tell you you knew better than that. You know you can't make a $25,000 assignment fee. Why wouldn't you just list the property? You have a fiduciary responsibility to your client, and you're going to have a forever internal conflict for this. So what happens is, all my friends and all my people that went to go get the licensed realtor as a wholesaler, they all get complaints filed against them. If you're going to get it, you're going to get complaints. Who's going to complain? First and foremost, most realtors complain. There's a lot of Karen crybaby realtors out there. Listen, my wife's a realtor. I'm not here to pick on realtors, but the number one people that'll complain you are other realtors because they don't understand what you're doing and they think what you're doing is illegal. So you get reported, and then you have to sit in front of a board because that's part of the paperwork you sign. And your broker is now responsible. And a lot of times the broker has to go. And how many times you can explain to your broker what you're doing is not illegal? And your broker is probably going to kick you out the door because they don't want the risk of it because they're scared they're going to get sued. By the way, if you tick off a homeowner, you tick off a buyer, they all report you to the state, and then you have to answer. No matter how bogus the claim is, you are now basically going to go to like a courtroom setting and explain yourself. And the judge and jury is a board sitting in front of you, and they're all licensed real estate agents and brokers, and they do not like wholesalers, even though they want their money under the umbrella. So how are you going to defend yourself? You're not. So I had a friend that got a $90,000 assignment fee. I still know this person, and I can back this up. There was a complaint filed by the realtor. They involved the homeowner, and at the end of the day, they had to give back the 90 grand, pay penalties, and then I think they got $18,000 in commission less $5,000 in penalties. So their $90,000 thing, I think it got knocked down to $13,000 because someone told them that they got to get licensed to get protected. Nobody's telling you the flip side is you run the risk of being scrutinized for everything. I know someone that recently spoke out to me, called me and said, listen, I got a license. Someone told me that it's the right thing to do, to be responsible. And he goes, it's an absolute nightmare. I've only had it a year. I've had 9 complaints. And I'm on my 3rd broker and nobody wants to house me anymore. And I'm just going to stop doing it. It's a nightmare. Which leads us to the next one. Those of you who wanted freedom and be on your own, you now have a boss. You have a broker and they have the right to overlook and see anything you're doing with marketing, anything to do with HUDs, anything to do with sellers, anything to do with a database. And here's the counter argument. Well, we're going to get you a customized broker that specializes in wholesalers. No, they're not. They're going to get you a franchise fee like an EXP or something like that. And when you sign up, you pay that first $150 to $250. They get the fee and put it in their pocket. So now you've become like a side hustle for them. And then they're going to tell you, well, we'll do support calls. I'm sure they'll do all that, but you don't need a real estate license to do all that stuff. So the reality is most of the people that are going to sell you this, they have a cure for you. And there's a cost for the cure. And they don't tell you about the flip side of everything I'm telling you. And that's what you have to understand. At the end of the day, guys, which role will you play? Do you want to be a wholesaler or do you want to be a real estate agent? Most of you have this theory because you've been told, you haven't been educated, you've been told that you have to get your real estate license to protect yourself as a wholesaler. And I'm here to tell you, you open up Pandora's box when you go get your license. Not only the fees, whatever, you get past the fees. I love realtors, and I agree, realtors run the real estate world. Realtors do not understand distressed properties. They don't understand cash buyers. They definitely don't understand assignment fees. And for that reason, why would you ever become a licensed realtor if that's not what you want to do as your main hustle business? So I'm here. You guys are being just completely pulled over on telling you like, you have to get licensed. You have to, all I hear is you have to get licensed. And I'm here to tell you, stop being so scared of all these laws and stuff. Every one of these statutes are hiding behind You're brokering real estate without a license. So let's talk real quick of the real basic steps you can do to protect yourself if you want to be a pure wholesaler. Because if you want to be a wholesaler and a realtor, I can't help you. Like, I promise you, you're going to go through such a maze that I just think you're going to be really aggravated. And the reality is, if you're going to be a realtor and you're like, well, I want to get commissions, then go do it, because you'll probably never make it as a wholesaler. It's just the truth. If you think commissions is like the main thing, by the way, guys, I refer off any type of my listings to my own company, and our company basically gets a marketing fee. I don't have to do any work. I don't talk to anybody. Honestly, it's the best deal you can ever get. If you think you want to sit there and take like 36 phone calls from a seller that wants like I don't deal in that world. I don't like it. So the reality is, most of them have to do a lot of full-time babysitting. And I don't like that part of the real estate. Some realtors love it and they thrive at it, and I love it. We have to have realtors. I'm not saying we have to have realtors. I think NAR is an illegal monopoly that's destroying the real estate business, but that's my opinion. Because if I can go on Zillow and buy a property without a realtor, or I can pay a realtor voluntarily, why do I need MLS and all this other stuff? MLS served its purpose back in the old days before the internet, and now, honestly, it's just like it's like a giant labor union. That's what it is, and they are hungry for their fees. They're the second most largest lobbying industry in the country, and they're never probably going to go away. So, which role do you want? I'm telling you guys, if you're going to do dual, it's going to take away from your wholesaling. You get continue education, the fees. Oh, I'm going to get commissions. The only way you're getting commissions, you're going to have to go to work. And then you're going to run the risk of someone misunderstanding if you're an investor that day or a real estate agent. Guys, you have to look at this before you do it. My advice to you is, if you're in a state where they have some crazy statute, Kentucky, Chicago, Oklahoma, stuff like that, sit down with your title company and sit down with a licensed real estate lawyer and talk about your options and ask specific questions. Pull the law, the statute they have on the books, and read it. And what you're going to find, most of these statutes, they're so vague, they're almost unenforceable in my opinion. Like, one court hearing, it'd be dismissed because there's no teeth to bite it on. So real quick, what do we do if we're a wholesaler and we don't want to be a real estate agent? Number one, you are selling the contract. If you stay in that role and you don't have some crazy state law, then you don't need a license. Go about your business and you're normal. When you guys start advertising pictures of properties and address and photos, you are doing it wrong. Like, you're not selling your contract, you're now selling a property, and that's where most of you get run under the bus. When you guys send out your mass emails and your texts with pictures and addresses, everything, your conversation as, I have an interest in a contract, I want to sell it. It's a great piece of property. Let me know if the numbers work. And you sit there and strictly talk about the numbers, because that's how a real assignment works. Now, if they want to look at pictures and stuff like that, and they get like a private link, and you decide to just help them out with that, when you mass market it, you're going to get in trouble. That's what they're trying to stop. So guys, you got to learn how to market to your cash buyers and stop doing these massive 5,000 emails, because most of the people on the other end, they're state officials, they're real estate agents that you're ticking off, and they're all reporting us, and we got to stop doing that. So just make a decision what you want to do. And more importantly, ask yourself this question: why are you becoming a realtor? And if you're becoming a realtor because somebody told you to, do your homework. Stop believing what everybody tells you. That's how NAR sucks in additional hundreds of thousands of people to pay these fees, because you think you're protected. I'm here to tell you, I've already gone through the cost. You go get your own private insurance policy and have 10 times the coverage on something like that. It's ridiculous. Honestly, why don't you just go out and just get a big commercial umbrella policy for $3,000 a year? And if you do something completely stupid, at least you have a shot. And by the way, the realtor license does not cover you if you break the law. If you commit fraud, forgery, you violate the RICO Act, if you purposely try to hide something that is a material fact, you're going to have a problem if you're licensed or not licensed. So I'm not here to protect complete scam artists, but I'm here to tell you, the only person I answer to would be my mother, and she's not here anymore. So like, that's the only person that ever gets like, hey, when she calls, when mama calls, like, we do whatever we got to do. So I'm not jumping through a hoop for like a board of realtors. And so they tried to call me twice as the owner of the brokerage. I'm like, I'm not subject to it. I'm not going. And I was out, but I'm just telling you, if I had a license, I probably would have been through 50 or 60 hearings by now. So listen, if you got your license before all this is, I get it. I just wouldn't pay the fees going forward. I think it's just a waste of money. And honestly, do you really want to be a realtor? Because if you're a licensed realtor, you got to put it on everything. And honestly, most of the time when you become a licensed realtor, guess what? You wind up becoming a realtor because that becomes your hustle. And I never got in this business to make $3,000 to $5,000 commission checks. It's to me, it'd be a waste of time. So that is my spiel on it. And I'm just telling you guys. So Steve says here, he was a realtor. I would love him to hop on and kind of say, why he got out of it. If anybody wants to talk about that, but I want you guys, you better seriously think about it, because committing to be a realtor is a financial commitment. It's a time commitment, and it creates a whole new liability for you. Because I will tell you, whenever I have licensed people and I think they've even slightly taken advantage of my company or something, I go after them. And if they don't have a license, I know there's not much I can do. So keep that in the back of your mind. I'm a businessman. I understand it. I know a licensed person has to answer, and it's uncomfortable and painful for them. Whereas a private individual, as long as you do business correctly, you shouldn't have an issue. Now, there are bad apples. There's bad realtors. There's bad wholesalers. We can't eliminate all of it. But I'm here to tell you, getting your license is never going to make you a better wholesaler. My last favorite one is people go, well, I'll be able to connect with realtors. Now, the only way you're going to be able to connect realtors as a licensed agent is you got to have experience. And then you got to go out and do a bunch of deals as a real estate agent, because they don't relate to wholesalers for the most part. And if you think that's going to bridge that gap, you're wasting your time. So I've just seen a huge push over the last 2 years, become licensed, become licensed, become licensed. And there's never an expansion. Honestly, I feel like me and my son are the only ones that speak up for this industry and say, why would you ever want to be a licensed real estate agent? It's completely counterproductive to what you do. It makes no sense. That's like me going out and being a Greenpeace officer, saving the whales and everything, and then I'm hunting whales on the ship on the backside. So anyways, that is it. That is my spiel. Do what you guys want to do. I just want you to be educated and ask quality questions, because a lot of people go out and get their real estate license and they let it expire. They pay all those fees and they go, man, that was a waste of energy and time. And my job is to ask you, why are you even considering it? And if it's solely because someone told you, look behind the mirror, pull it back, and look what they're going to sell you behind it. They're either going to sell you some sort of franchise. Here's my favorite one. I'm going to sell you an investor-friendly brokerage. There's no such thing. I'm sorry. It's a realtor is a realtor broker. Now, some brokers, they like working with investors better, but for the most part, I guarantee you there's some sort of MLM. I don't agree with all these EXPs and all this other stuff, because it's all about promoting and getting people under you, which as long as they pay their entry fee, nobody cares. And to me, that's our problem with the whole wholesaling coaching business. As long as you guys pay your fee and you get in, and we got a 90-95% failure ratio, then we're all good to go. So we got to stop giving our money to people that, number one, don't know what to do with it, number B, are never going to help you out.